Welcome to another edition of the USF Football Radio Show. We're getting ready to go to New Orleans this week. Bulls and Tulane from Ullman Stadium. First of two on the road to wrap up the regular season for the Bulls in 2021. Head coach Jeff Scott joins us. Coach, we'll talk about the road trip coming up to Tulane as we progress today. But let's talk about the game against number 2 Cincinnati, 5th in the college football playoff poll, and the Bulls certainly had their moments in this game.
Yeah, it was a fun game for our guys to play. I mean, obviously we knew we were a big underdog in playing a great team, and I felt like we had our moments. Ultimately, we didn't get the outcome that we all wanted, which would have been a big upset win, and I think for us, going into the second quarter 7-7, that was kind of going just about the way that I was hoping it would for us to really have a chance, and then unfortunately kind of letting them go on a run. I told our players, we've been talking about the importance of playing 4 quarters, right? And especially when you're playing a really good team like Cincinnati or the week before against Houston. And really watching the video, I think we played close to 3 quarters, about 45 of the 60 minutes. We really, competed and we're doing a lot of things that gave us a chance. But there was about a 15-minute window there in the second quarter that, we really were not able to capitalize offensively or defensively, and allowed them to get up there 31-7, but really again it's kind of the same thing each week. We find ourselves in a hole and guys get their backs up against the wall, but to be able to go from being down 31-7 to be able to fight back and be in the fourth quarter and have it a 10-point game with the ball in your hands, going down with a chance to score and make it a 3-point game, I think there's a lot of positives in that. Similar to some of these others against a good team, we've shown that we can compete, but ultimately the room for error is very small when you're playing a talented team like Cincinnati, and so we're kind of learning those lessons right now, and we'll move forward here going this week.
Jeff, I know you've constantly said you don't believe in moral victories and it's about getting real victories, but certainly the upward trajectory of your program seems undeniable at this point. You've got 2 games left. Everybody around the nation is starting to notice what's being done here. How encouraged are you with what you're seeing, with how guys are fighting, not giving up, and making these into tight competitive games? Yeah,
well, I think there's a difference between accepting a moral victory or accepting a defeat, and that's not it's never going to be okay to lose. Our players know that. Like, there's nobody walking around really happy because we kept it to be a close game. So our guys, our coaches, and players know, hey, it's all about getting those W's. But on the other side of it, you can lose games where you play really poorly and guys are undisciplined and just not focused and really not connected, and or you can see a lot of the things that we've seen. There is a lot of positive things. I think for me overall, the thing that I'm just most encouraged by is the overall energy within our team each and every week. It's hard. These guys have been through some battles. I think we're the only team in our maybe in Group of 5 to play 4 top 20 teams this season. So they've been through some adversity, and we haven't made enough plays, honestly, to get on the other side of it. But to keep showing up and competing and being able to get better as a team while you're going through a difficult season, that's just going to pay dividends really for the end of your season and going into next year. And so even though we're disappointed in these end results and the overall record, there's a really positive energy, and I think a thing of the overall foundation of where we are. The improvement is showing up each and every week, and as long as we keep doing that, and then we bring in a really talented recruiting class to add to our current roster, I'm just really encouraged of what the future has for us here.
Indications of improvement are kind of easy to find. Let's start with third downs. They had been a chore for the offense throughout most of this season. Now here you are the last 2 weeks, Houston and Cincinnati, arguably 2 of the best defenses, if not the best defenses you'll face this year. Bulls are 52% on third downs in those last 2 weeks. What's led to that improvement?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately, it takes everybody. It takes the coaches having the right plan and maybe adjusting a few things, and then it takes the players really taking ownership and correcting those mistakes. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying a minute ago. To be able to show up and continue to work to make improvement in spite of some of the things that have happened in the past. That's what's encouraging, because it is important to these guys. I mean, they really want to improve. They're hungry to improve. That makes it fun to come into the office knowing that your guys are going to go work hard and do that. But yeah, third down offensively, definitely been pleased with the progress. I think we had 1 4th down that we were able to convert last week as well. So as long as we can continue to improve on third down, then I think that's going to definitely be good for the Bulls moving forward.
Individually, there were a lot of guys we could talk about. One is certainly Jimmy Horn. He goes 80 yards on a touchdown. Turns out to be the longest play ever by a freshman in this program's history, and he runs 75 with it. Yards after the catch were pretty stunning, and I was down there looking at it. It was an eye-opener to see how fast he could move. I know you're excited about his potential, and maybe he hasn't had as many opportunities in the early season, but he certainly showed what he could do on that play. Just speak about his future here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've been talking about him the last couple of weeks, feeling, there's been some moments where he's maybe made a play or two, but, he's a guy that works extremely hard in practice. He's made a lot of plays like that one in practice. So, what you're looking for as a freshman is, can you carry that over from the practice field to now doing it on the game field, and not just doing it against anybody. I mean, Cincinnati is one of the fastest defenses, that we've played all year long, and there is incredible confidence that comes when a freshman like that makes that play. Like for him, it's going to be a lot quicker before he makes that play again, just because you have to go out there and do it in a game and realize that you can do that, and then also the energy that brings, to our offense, to our team. I think another thing that's really encouraging to me is you look at a lot of these playmakers that are out here, and a lot of these guys are freshmen and sophomore. They're going to be around for a while, and so that's another really good sign, seeing the development of some of those young guys like Jimmy this part of the season.
Some takeaways for the Bulls, and that's kind of Cincinnati's game. They came into this game one of the best in the nation in both turnovers forced and turnover margin. Bulls did lose it a couple of times, but they were able to get some key takeaways. The interception right at the top of the game was certainly a big one.
Yeah, it was. It was great for me, just to see Christian Williams make that play, because he's been a guy that we brought in that we've been really excited about. He got hurt early in the season with a tough ankle injury and had surgery, and to be able to kind of come back, he's been working. He's probably not all the way to 100% yet, but he's getting closer. So to see him make that play and be able to go and take it all the way back there inside the 5, again, that's just going to add to his confidence. And those are the kind of plays that we really need to be making on defense when you're playing a really good team, to give yourself a chance. And our defense started off first 2 drives, 2 turnovers gave us, and unfortunately we weren't able to capitalize, because we turned the ball back over there one time right back to them. But that definitely, I think, gave us an opportunity in that game. But on the flip side of it, with our offense and special teams, we turned it over 4 times, and you're not going to beat anybody regardless of who you play if you turn the ball over 4 times. And so I think for us, it goes back to kind of that complementary football, right? We got to get them on defense, and we got to protect the ball a little bit better offensively in special teams.
Jaron Mangum has 2 more touchdowns. It's almost the point where that's an expectation now. We don't really react to it, but you look at his body work, 15 touchdowns. I was just curious and looked at some of the other guys in the state of Florida over the years. Emmett Smith never had 15 touchdowns. Clinton Portis never had 15 touchdowns. Warwick Dunn never had 15 touchdowns. I mean, this is a pretty darn good season he's putting together here, not only here, but in the state of Florida.
Absolutely, and I actually mentioned that this morning in the meeting to the players because sometimes we just kind of move on and you don't even mention some of these things, but it is a special season that he's having, and really recognize our offensive line and tight ends for doing a good job of being able to help him get in there, and that's definitely been a huge positive for us. I think that's something we feel really comfortable when we get the ball down there inside the 5-yard line, that we're going to be able to go and score and punch it in. And as you're building and as you're improving your overall team and your offense, if you can have that as kind of being a staple, that you can get the ball in when you get inside that 5-yard line, you can really build from there. And I feel like that's kind of what we're doing. But yeah, really proud of Jaron. I think he's 3 away from the all-time record with Quentin Flowers with 18. So hopefully here he can get a couple more here in these last 2 games, and that'd be really special for him to break break the overall record.
We continue to see the progression of Timmy McClain, some eye-opening plays in this game, and people are starting to take notice around the country now.
Yeah, I'm really proud of Timmy. I think now these last two games, he's made a lot of plays, and as he's again getting experience. And I think when you look around our league and you look at the teams that are kind of at the top of our league, just like Cincinnati, these quarterbacks have been playing for multiple years, right? And these guys typically get better as they go. And so again, with him being a freshman, the experience that he's gotten, you go look at the defenses that he's played this year, and he's made a lot of plays. He's really held his own, and he's going to only get better and better. And it's just great to see our offensive players, our defensive players, the whole team, just really kind of rally behind him and know, hey, we got a special player right here that's going to give us a chance. Every time he gets that ball in his hands, you feel like there's a chance of something really good that's going to happen. And I know that's something that our South Florida fans have experienced in years past with some of the talented quarterbacks. So I think he's going to make it really fun for us here in the future.
So your defense, obviously, the last few weeks has been battling depth and injury situations, and those don't go away. But yet you play Houston, you play Cincinnati, and we do see some more bright spots. We do see some more positive signs. How do you measure the growth of this defense with all the problems they've had to deal with, and yet they keep showing us ability to play these teams in tight spots?
Yeah, it's difficult. The biggest thing that we're looking for from a defense perspective is just overall consistency. And I was really frustrated by that last 55-yard touchdown run that they had there at the end of the game, because up until that point, that was play 79 in the game that our defense was on the field. Up until that point, we'd only given up 4 runs over 10 yards. And so that was one of our, against a really good running team, that was one of our best performances. And we only gave up 1 pass over 20 yards for the entire game. So, really up until that point, I felt like we had done a solid job. And then, we just had 3 missed tackles. And ultimately, whenever you miss some tackles at linebacker and safety, there's nobody behind. It's a touchdown. And so, overall, I felt like there's been some progress. That group's been working. It was difficult. Matt Hill's a guy that's played a lot of snaps for us, and he was not able to go, and some of the other guys were not quite 100%. But I felt like they competed, and really with the turnovers that they gave us an opportunity really to kind of be in the game. And unfortunately, offensively there in the second quarter, we really couldn't run the ball and really keep the ball to get our drives going and kind of execute the plan that we needed to win. But overall, I feel like defensively, these guys have made some progress at certain points of the game, and ultimately, we've just got to be consistent for 4 quarters and not give up some of those plays that we've been giving up.
All right, stay with us. Much more to come. Glenn Spencer later in the hour. Sam's out this week, but Joey and I back with Coach after this on the USF Football Radio Show. Bulls on the road this week. It's an early one. Also, get ready for this on Saturday. It'll be a 12 noon kick. That's Eastern time locally for the Bulls at Ullman Stadium in New Orleans. It'll be 11 a.m. for the Bulls and the Tulane Green Wave. That's a little bit of a schedule changer for you to be up on the field that early.
No, it's good. I love playing road games at noon. Just get up and go. Obviously, whenever we're at home, I love the night games and being able to play in front of a great crowd at night. But for those road games, you're traveling, you want to get up and go. And, we're a morning practice team, so we're on the field pretty much every morning at 9 o'clock. So for me, I think whenever I heard that game time, I got excited about it. And, we're definitely looking forward to going out there and playing Tulane this Saturday. And, I think they're similar to us in a lot of ways. They're better than their record indicates when you turn on the video and watch it. 2 weeks ago, they had a 4-point loss to Central Florida on the road. And then this past week really had an opportunity to beat Tulsa. Missed a short field goal as time expired there to beat Tulsa and lost into overtime. And defensively, they've really improved here over the last couple of weeks. So for us, it'll be another good challenge on the road and one our guys are looking forward to.
What you said was just interesting. I know football teams are creatures of habit, creatures of scheduling. So So as you play these road games, is it really a big concern for the coaches to keep guys on schedule and to make sure things run smoothly? And this is more toward your schedule to have a game like this?
Yeah, and one thing I would say, again, as a head coach, you kind of are looking at everything, especially in the first couple of years of coming to a new program. Our guys have done a great job, really, just with the organization. Number one, Albert Boone, our director of football operations, does an incredible job, and our support staff of just how we travel, just very well organized and on time, all the things that you need to do. So I think the foundation there has been good. And then our young men have been awesome, being on time where they need to be, being at the meetings and meals and all the things that go into it. So, those are things that you have to learn how to do those as well. And I think that, helps to lead to some consistency in your performances, hopefully moving forward. But, early game, early kickoff, again, just as a player and as a coach, you like to wake up and go. Sometimes those night games, you got to sit around the hotel, wait all day, and go play real late at night. So I think our guys and players are excited about waking up and playing at 12 noon.
As this season goes on, we start to see some of the young guys get a little bit more opportunities. I think of a guy like Holden Willis, who we didn't see much of in the early part of the season. Then he started getting a few snaps, and all of a sudden he breaks through with two pretty big catches in last week's game. That's something you need from this team, too, from the young guys to progress, to start contributing a little more as the season goes on.
Absolutely. And like I've used this analogy a bunch, you're looking through a microscope and a telescope, right, at the same time as a coach as you're building a program. And so I think part of us, this second half of the season has also been finding opportunities to develop some of our younger players that are in the program. Holden is a young man that I think has a bright future here. He came in as a tight end, and we've been kind of using him this year to add some length and size to our wide receiver room. And, he's kind of been waiting his turn a little bit behind Xavier Weaver and DeMarcus Gregory. And so to see him go out there in some key situations against a great team like Cincinnati, again, it's going to build his confidence in himself and what he's doing, his route running and abilities, and to be able to help the team. And it also builds confidence in the offense, the quarterback and coaches and everybody to know that he can go out there and make those plays. So really pleased to see that, and I know he'll continue to make plays for us moving forward.
Speaking about Tulane, I know they haven't had the season they would have expected, played much better the last couple of weeks, and it's a long time ago. Did you go back to the season opener, which they had to move from New Orleans to Oklahoma because of the hurricane? They played the heck out of Oklahoma, almost won the game, losing 40-35, and it seemed at that moment, hey, watch out for Tulane. What did you see in that game? What can you draw from it, and what's kind of happened through the progression of the season?
Yeah, I remember that game very clearly because we were not playing that day, and I was watching it actually in my office as I was preparing some things for our practice. And, they really had an opportunity. I think they got the onside kick, and, we're getting ready to go down to score and have a chance for a huge upset. But that's a long time ago. Just like you think about where we started with our game against NC State, really the only game that we really didn't have a chance and didn't compete in. Really everything since then, we've had some moments, but that's a long time ago. I think when you get to the 11th game of the year, you really, each team kind of starts developing who they are offensively, defensively, special teams wise. So as coaches, we go watch all the games, but we start with the most recent and work your way back. And so I think for me, watching them here over the last couple of weeks, they've changed some things defensively. They're playing a lot more man coverage. They're committing a lot more guys to the box, and they have some really good athletes in their secondary on the outside that have played extremely well the last 2 weeks against really good receivers at Central Florida and Tulsa. So it's going to be a really big challenge for our wide receivers to be able to win some of these main coverage matchups. And then I think offensively, they've got a really talented young quarterback. He missed some time in the middle of the year with some injuries. He's back now and really doing a good job for them. So I think with how they've played the last 2 weeks, they probably feel very similar to us, that they have some chances to win some close games, and they're wanting to finish their season strong just like we are. So I think it's going to be a really good matchup.
It's interesting that you mentioned onside kicks, because we know by their nature what a low percentage play that tends to be. Tulane's 5 out of 7 this year on onside kicks. I don't know anybody that converts 70% of their onside kicks. Does an obscure statistic like that kind of catch your eye when you're in game prep?
Yeah, you definitely have to recognize that. That's probably got to be an NCAA record, I would have to think, just because I think they say the statistic is it's less than it's around 7% is typically what the chance is on an onside kick. So for them to have that many successful ones, they're doing something good. I think really what it tells me and really leads into is this is probably one of the best special teams units that we'll play all year. And their head coach is a former special teams guy. I think he coaches the special teams. It's a huge emphasis for them, and so it'll be a good matchup. And Coach DePrada's done a really good job with our special teams this year, but he definitely studied it and said, hey, this is going to be, we're going to have to buckle up. This is one of the best special teams units in the country. I think their punter is one of the leaders in the country, having an outstanding year. They do a really good job on field goal block and on their kickoff return team. So I think that's definitely going to be a big matchup in the game.
The last few weeks, the mantra has kind of been, offense, control the ball, keep the defense off the field, be good on third downs, both sides of the ball, get some takeaways if you can. Is this the formula for beating Tulane as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think, we got to, each week you have to kind of look at each opponent and kind of see where your best matchups are. So it's going to be a little bit different maybe week to week and some of the things that you do. But, ultimately we want to score every time we get the ball. But if we're not going to score, we don't want to get off the field in 45 seconds. We want to be able to wear number one, wear down their defense by us being on the field and being able to run the ball and be in rhythm. And then number two, keep their offense off the field. And again, when you have a little bit not as much depth as you want on the defensive side of the ball, it's important that you don't put those guys out there for a lot of snaps. So it's not a situation where we're just playing ball control and just trying to run for 2 or 3 yards of play. Obviously, we'll take as many of those 80-yard touchdowns as we can get for sure. But yeah, I think ultimately the message is we got to continue to be better on first and second down to stay in third, medium third, and manageable, and then continue to improve on third down and be able to keep drives alive and be able to score touchdowns. And then ultimately on defense, we got to be able to get off the field on third down and not allow them to continue drives. And I mean, it's a simple concept, but it's hard to do, right? When you're playing teams and they're trying to do the same thing on the other side, and ultimately it just comes down to consistency and being able to do that over 4 quarters.
How heartening was that defensive stand inside the 5-yard line last week?
Yeah, I mean that was awesome, and really I think it was a 17-point game there. If our backs are against the wall, if they score there and go up 24, then it's really, really difficult. And again, at that point, it's like this is about making a statement. This is about improving who we are, our toughness, mental and physical toughness. For not just this game, but for moving forward as a program. And I told our players, what I'm going to remember after we take all the lessons from this game. What I'm going to remember is backs against the wall, first and goal at the 5 against one of the most talented teams in the country, and holding them out, getting the ball to 2, and going 98 yards to make it a 10-point game. I mean, those are the things. Those are the things that happen in the course of games that you're going to be able to lean on. I mean, we talked a lot about in BYU that long drive that we had right on the road in a hostile environment against a good defense. I mean, those are the things at the end of the year. We're not going to have the number of wins that we all want that we're going to be able to have in the future, but we're going to be able to have some of these opportunities where we were able to have some success and really, I think, some building blocks for what's coming.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned the NC State opener, and in some ways that seems like 100 years ago, and it's hard to remember that specifically. And I know a few weeks ago you said you remember November, and that is true. You do remember the way a team finishes, if they're going up, if they're going down. This team is clearly going up. So has that evolved the way you'd hoped for in terms of putting yourself in a good position for the end of the season?
Well, obviously, I hope that we would have a few more wins than we do, but yes, and I told our players that this morning in the meeting that, hey, there's a strong feeling within our building, within our team, within our locker room that we are improving and making progress, but we're going to find out this week on the road. If we're making progress, then you go win these games that we're playing this Saturday. And, the big challenge that I gave them is, we got an opportunity to finish our season with 2 wins right here. And that really needs to be our focus. We got 11 days left in the season. And the last time our program has won the final 2 games of the season was 2016. So this team has a very real opportunity to be able to finish the season in a strong way and do something that hasn't been done in 5 years. And so that's really what our guys, but you can't win the last 2 if you don't win this one this weekend, right? And so that's really where our focus is. And what I told our team, we don't have to do anything supernatural. All we have to do is make the most of each one of these 11 days that we have in front of us. And I really believe that we got a chance to really finish this season and be able to let our seniors leave and know that they were leaving as the program was moving up, and give us a lot of energy going into recruiting, going into the off season, and going into next season.
Coach, thanks. We'll see you in New Orleans.
Thank you. Go Bulls.
Head coach of the Bulls, Jeff Scott. Bulls in Tulane Saturday at noon. We'll talk about that game and much more on the Bulls defense with Glenn Spencer when we continue on the USF Football Radio Show. Bulls in Tulane getting ready for a 12 noon start. And by the way, if you're going over to Orlando for the War on I-4 the day after Thanksgiving, we do have the start time on that now. It will be a 3:30 kickoff on the day after Thanksgiving, the War on I-4 versus UCF in Orlando. Defensive coordinator Glenn Spencer joins us, 30-year veteran of the game as a player and coach. Does that seem a little surprising when I put it into words? That's a long and storied career.
I thought, you took off. I think I'm at 31 or 32.
How about
coaching.
that?
Yeah,
I cut you short, huh?
If you throw in there playing in there, it's even longer. So, but I like it the way you're making it sound, just as good.
This is a challenge this year for this young Bulls defense, and you've had some injuries, and you probably, don't have the depth you quite want to see in some positions. But there's progress as this season goes on. You got 11 takeaways in the last 5 games against some of the toughest teams on the schedule this year. Are you seeing signs of things you want to see here as the season continues?
I am. It's just, the injury situation, you game plan every week. Like, what are we going to do that's going to give us the best chance to win? So if we had a backup or 2, even the third guy in at a spot, you have to protect it a little bit. You can't leave a guy out on an island that, is a down the line cover guy for you, just kind of plugging in to get through the week. And a couple times we had some defensive end deficiencies with injuries and all, so schematically you have to do something to try to get your best 11 on the field. So it's been, every week it's been a little juggling act there. And this week I told the guys today, this might be as far as having our full strength finally, with Christian getting back, and then a couple of the linebackers will be back, and we've had a couple season-ending injuries, but as far as just a week-to-week deal, we might be healthier this week than we have been in the past. But back to your question, yes, there's been some improvement, and a couple situations last week where they got some plays, and some guys that don't play a lot, should have and could have made the plays, and they didn't. But it is what it is. It's still us, and I'm still frustrated that we're not getting off the field more, or limiting to opponents to field goals in a few situations as opposed to touchdowns. But it is definitely better than it was at the first of the year.
I know part of your mantra is to avoid the big plays, and Cincinnati, in their last touchdown, they did get a long run, but that really doesn't tell the story of what you did during the game, holding them to not a lot of big runs, and that's a pretty good running team. I know it must have been frustrating to give that up, but overall, you had to be happy with how you handled it for the most part.
I was. We watch it with the players, and you see, a lot of good stops and not giving up an explosive run, and the schematic stuff that they did with that running quarterback. He's given a lot of people fits all year because he's so fast and can get on the edge. But yeah, that last run, a couple of guys missed tackles, and we were in a 4-minute mode, and we knew they were going to run the ball. So that leaves a little sour taste in your mouth. Wish that wouldn't have happened because there were some things to build on, and just disappointing in the perimeter a couple times. We had a couple crack situations. We didn't defend the sideline very well, and those are just some musts that can't happen if you really want to say, hey, we want to shut down the run game. You cannot give the people sidelines like we did a couple times, and I think we addressed that, and we'll work on that this week.
As you build this personnel looking into next year, first of all, I thought Coach Scott's comments were interesting about the so-called super seniors. It's a little murky now when you're a senior. Are you coming back? Can you stay? Do you want to stay? And he indicated there was tremendous buy-in from the seniors about wanting to come back so they didn't miss when this program took off. And that's got to be gratifying to hear. But as you build this defense for next year, what are you looking for? Where does this team need to really bulk up?
Well, first of all, what a nightmare for a head coach, just roster management. I mean, sometimes we get in there with these charts and lists and all, and it loses me. I'm like, wow, it's tough, and then you have to find out, who's coming back a little earlier than what you normally would. Normally you wait till after the season's over with, but trying to get in some mid-year guys, that's a big point to your original question, is we really have to kind of transform the defensive front. We definitely need a couple more cover guys. We're very limited in some, situations where you'd like to play more man, but we can't. But it starts up front, and we've had some deficiencies at defensive end. We have to address that with some transfer situations and defensive tackle. We're losing some of those super seniors, like you said, that are really out of time and are going to be moving on. So Coach has done a great job of addressing that, and really getting a great list and really going hard at some of these mid-year guys to beef up the front and address the defensive end situation, and then replacing some defensive tackles and just trying to better your personnel at a lot of different positions.
I think when we look back at the things that maybe you're most encouraged about this defense, one of the things we'll certainly look at is that goal line stand against Cincinnati. How encouraged were you to see that, and what was the key to kind of making that work and getting Cincinnati off the field? Well,
just first of all, just the attitude of our guys when they're on the goal line. You look back, it wasn't just that game. I think we've had some really good goal line play throughout the year. East Carolina was one, and some other ones. But yeah, that drive started on the 20-yard line after a turnover. We talk about sudden change, how big it is, and we had two big sudden change stops in the game Friday. That one was huge. They had it 1st and goal inside the 5, and it was front guys got to be low. They're going to get extra tight ends, so you might have some linebackers that have to be in a spot where they're not used to being at. And then just great play by the linebackers. You saw Greer make a great tackle on the quarterback one time. They scored on that one, but it's just tough. I always tell them maybe more the defensive staff than the players, but bad things tend to happen when they get the ball on the 1-yard line. Not a lot of times you're coming off the field without giving up points. What I'd like to do is not be in that situation a lot. What you like to do is, force a field goal before that in that sudden change situation. But very proud of them. Again, one of those things that teams that are going backwards, teams that aren't bought in, teams that they fold right there. They just let the score go in, and they were going to score anyway type attitude. So that just kind of taps you into a little bit of where the mindset is of these guys, and gives you hope for down the road.
Greer is an interesting case. We visited with him on this show a couple of weeks ago. He had in that 14 to 15 tackle range in the last game against Cincinnati. He had some takeaways. It seems like in the last maybe 3 to 4 games, he's been a little bit more of the Antonio Greer that we know, and I know he wasn't 100% earlier in the season. Is just getting healthy been a big part of his emergence?
No doubt. He's a very quick twitch young man, and when that quick isn't there, he's not a massive linebacker, so he can get in some situations, some bad situations, but when he's healthy and knows his reads, and he can get out of trouble and get you into a great play. And that 1 4th down that they got, he really had a great profile tackle. He needs some help on that one. We could have got off the field there in the middle of the field that time. But and again, because of the depth situation, you have an Antonio Greer, Dwayne Bowles that are playing 70, 80 snaps. And I can go a lot down the road, and we just can't do that. We have to have another recruiting cycle to get some depth where he's going to be much better playing 50 snaps than 80, and then somebody else needs to be playing those other 30. When we're in a high-tempo offense and our opponents are high-tempo, if you don't have depth on defense, you're going to have issues, and that's hit us a few times. Guys playing way too many snaps.
Anybody that's been in college football for 2 or 3 decades, they certainly have a story to tell about all the places they've been, the journey, where it's taken them. You've played in a lot of different programs, a lot of different conferences. What led you to USF? What did you see here from this program? And based on what you've experienced the last 2 years, where can this program go in the future?
Well, at this point, what drew me here was, just the leadership with Coach Scott, and then with Michael Kelly when they came to visit with me. We were coming off a great year at FAU, and Lane was asking me to go to Ole Miss. There was a contract situation there with the coordinator was there, so it couldn't happen right now. So, I wanted to go with the guy I felt great with at the time, and the timing of the contract offer. So I wouldn't have made this move if it wasn't for the people at this point in my career after 32 years. You want to go to work every day knowing we're pulling the same rope, and knowing that the head coach has confidence in me and my experience of done what I've done, and that was big also. So and then a place that was considered down some, and knew that it was going to be a rebuild, and knew that we had work to do recruiting, but knowing that trajectory, if you do things right and just stay consistent, it's gonna go up eventually and start trending in the right way.
Coach Kiffin left right after the end of the regular season at Florida Atlantic, and you were the interim head coach for the bowl game, and you had a great day against SMU, put 52 on them and won the bowl game. What was that experience like for you as interim head coach? That's not an easy task coming in like that.
No, it was really surreal. When you look back at it, there was so much going on that week. The game, talking to him, wanting to go there and start recruiting. Didn't want to leave the players there. We had some suspensions that week, academic, like 7 guys were out, 5 starters, and nobody gives you a chance. Just trying to hold it together, and just the ending there was really a storybook ending, and just how the kids came together, and just a good night overall. Great experience, one of the top experiences for me in my career, and that's counting all the big bowl games and such. Just to be a part of that, nationwide. I don't know if it was a big deal, but I know for me and those the staff that was there, and it was 100 kids. It was tremendous. It was an unbelievable thing to be a part of.
Coach, you've mentioned the buy-in and the effort that you've seen in the late season. I know through your career you've probably seen all kinds of finishes, teams going up, teams going down, and you always want to be that team that's going up. And Coach Scott has mentioned you remember November. That's what you hang your hat on. So as you come to the close of this season and viewing the effort, the buy-in, and the trajectory of this program, how optimistic are you for where this program can go from what you're seeing of late for those guys?
And I think that story's still being written. With 2 big games on the docket. Games that just personnel-wise we match up better, and where we are right now, and in our roster, and just really encouraged though by. I've been on the other side of it. I've had some seasons where they were the 1-win seasons, and there's 3 weeks left, and everybody wants to get out of there. Nobody there's like I don't want any part of this, and some kids will shut it down, and that's what's encouraging about right now. I think Coach Scott's done a great job of showing the positives and putting out there the vision of what things are going to look like and where we're headed, and the effort on the field. You look at the third and fourth quarters of some of these games, and we're doing some great things out there. We just consistently don't have what we need, and have to get it out of them. But to be consistent 4-quarter team right now, it hasn't happened. So the next 2 weeks will be big. Let's visit again after that and see if we still feel good. I think we will. I think we'll come out and guns loaded and play a really good game this next week.
Coach, thanks for taking time for us. We'll see you in New Orleans.
All right, sounds good.
Bulls defensive coordinator Glenn Spencer, stay with us. We'll stay with the defense and visit with Kelvin Pinkney when we return on the USF Football Radio Show. Welcome back to the USF Football Radio Show. Bulls and Tulane, Saturday, 12 o'clock kick Eastern Time from Yulman Stadium in New Orleans, and then the brand new information on the war on I-4 in Orlando the following week. It is a 3:30 kickoff for the Bulls and UCF. Kelvin Pinkney joins us now, veteran defensive lineman for the Bulls. Kelvin, thanks for taking time for us. We talked with Glenn Spencer in the segment before this. He was pretty complimentary of you, especially on those goal line stands the Bulls have had against East Carolina and Cincinnati. Tell us a little bit about the one against Cincinnati last week, such a key sequence of plays for the Bulls.
The one last week, I just knew that I had to get in the backfield, honestly. And from that point on, I just did what I had to do.
Kelvin, it had to be an emotional night for you, senior night. You deviate from your pattern and you go on the field, you give roses to your family, you're recognized before the crowd with your jersey, and then you play a football game. What is that like to go through kind of an emotional ceremony and then play your game and know that, this is the last time to play at Raymond James Stadium for you?
Yeah, it gives you a lot of emotion to play with. So from that point on, you just take that emotion and use it on the field.
As this season has gone on, there's been a lot of challenges for the defense, especially in personnel. You guys have to play a lot of snaps. You don't have the depth that you would probably like to have. But as we watch from afar, we see progress as the season goes on. Have you felt the same way?
Yes. This defense, we've been working day in and day out. So from that point on, at the beginning of the season, everybody looked at the injuries and we kind of assessed the situation, and we're like, we just got to do what we got to do and go out there and do what we have to do as a defense and take care of the game plan.
Football is a very long season. When you think about your opener at NC State, that seems like 100 years ago. You guys have persevered through all of that and tried to get better, which you have gotten better. How has this team been able to navigate this long season and keep your spirit up and be kind of on the way up here at the end of the season with an upward trajectory?
The team, we've been just building with each other each and every week, day in and day out, just kind of, honing each other's skills, just making each other better, feeding off of each other's energy. That's how we've been able to go on an upward, incline for the rest of the season.
Booker High School. Tell us a little bit about your recruiting journey to USF. Who went down to Sarasota and got you?
The guy that came down from Coach Strong's coaching staff was Coach Burke, from Coach Taggart's coaching staff, because I was in that transition. It was Coach Mathis. And then, from Booker High School coming here, it was just one of those things where it was like I'm close to home, families everywhere, so...
So this program, they call it Bay Made. If you're from the area and you play for USF, there's been a lot of great players in USF's history that have been Bay Made players. What's it been like being a Bay Made player? You could have maybe gone somewhere far away. You're right in the backyard. All your family and friends can come see you play. What has that been like to have kind of that hometown feel?
The hometown feel is great. Honestly, my family, they come to every game, so it's just been a great experience for me, having my family there every step of the way.
One of the things that Coach Scott has really worked on with this program is bringing back football alumni. So you've had a chance to listen to George Selvey speak. You've had a chance to visit with JPP. What lessons have you learned from those guys, and what does it mean to you to have the opportunity to visit with guys that have made it to the next level and excelled?
From both JPP and also George Selvey, they've instilled in me, honestly, just the drive and the want to for the defense, just making sure that as a defense we don't let anything pass us, we don't let anything fly. Everything that we do is for a purpose.
And Kelvin, you mentioned when you got here, you were in that transition mode between Coach Taggart and Coach Strong. Obviously, you've seen a lot of ups and downs in this program during your time here. What has it been like, all the experiences, the good and the bad, and how do you think that shaped you for life after USF?
It shaped my life in a major way, honestly, because it taught me, you go through adversity, but there's always the good. You always have to look for something good throughout the process.
2 games left. Seems hard to believe. They're both on the road. It's kind of odd to finish the schedule away from home 2 times in a row, but what do these 2 games mean for you personally? Obviously, you want to help your team get a win, finish this season strong, but what's going to be going through your mind in your final 2 games?
These 2 games are personal. We just have to do what we got to do as a defense. So a lot of the guys on the defense, we've all been talking, and we just kind of put our heads together and we're like, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to execute the game plan. We execute the game plan, we go out and we win.
Kelvin, how much are you focused on making football part of your future? And when football is done, what do you see yourself doing in life?
That's one of my major focuses, making football a part of my future. But after football is over for me, I plan on going into teaching, which is something that I wanted to do for a while.
Teaching high school, or would you
teaching
coach?
Middle school.
Middle school?
Yeah, middle school. And then I think teaching middle school gives you the opportunity to, mold kids and shape kids and shape their minds and shift them into a mindset of they can do anything that they put their mind to. And it also allows them to develop critical thinking skills, and they can apply that to life later on.
Do you remember middle school? What I mean by that is a lot of teachers, that wouldn't be their first choice. So you see a chance to make an impact and do things maybe the harder way?
Yeah, because I feel like there was one teacher that I had, and she was my 4th grade teacher, but a lot of the lessons that she taught me through 4th grade helped me throughout middle school, high school, and even now. And that's Ronique Major Hunley. She's also a USF alum as well.
That sounds like a great plan, and we wish you well. Thank you for taking time for us today, and we'll see you in New Orleans against Tulane.
All right, thank you for having me.
Kelvin Pinkney, number 96 from the Bulls defensive line. Stay with us. Joey and I back to wrap things up after this on the USF Football Radio Show. Bulls in Tulane as we head to New Orleans. It's only the 2nd time the Bulls have played football in the state of Louisiana. A lot of parallels between these 2 teams. Tulane has won 1 game. They've dropped 8 in a row, but they've been in a bunch of games just like the Bulls have. They've played a pretty tough schedule and played some really difficult teams very well. This is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds on Saturday.
It will, and I know it's a long time ago, but I still cannot forget that opening game where Tulane pushed Oklahoma to the limit, almost pulled the upset in a game that was moved to Oklahoma because of a hurricane. That tells me there's some special ingredient to this Tulane team. Had a lot of tough games in the last few months, but I don't think they're a team you can overlook by any means.
And for the Bulls with 2 games remaining, boy, they're big games because it's really going to determine the momentum and how you feel all the way through the offseason. A great opportunity if they can get a couple of wins to really feel good going into 2022.
A huge opportunity, and if you project these as victories, I think the momentum and the trajectory that could be provided by 2 straight wins to close the season would be incredible. It would be exactly what the program needs.
Got to get the first one first, as we are told, and that's what the Bulls will try to do Saturday against Tulane. 12 noon will be the kickoff time. Thanks for joining us today. We are back next week with another edition of the USF Football Radio Show.